Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're still with us. I know that's been a very busy morning, and we just had lunch, so hopefully people are still awake and alert, and I hope we can still maintain the momentum of the day and keep you engaged. Our session today is on the theme of Beyond Profit, Embedding Responsibility in Islamic Banks and Investment Solutions for Long-Term Sustainability. This topic highlights a critical shift in Islamic finance, moving from more profit-driven models towards a framework that prioritizes ethical responsibility and sustainable impact. Islamic finance, rooted in principles of equity, social justice, and risk sharing, is uniquely positioned to champion long-term sustainability. By embedding environmental, social, and governance considerations into financial products and banking operations, Islamic institutions can foster both economic and social welfare. This approach can attract conscious investors, align with global sustainability goals, and mitigate risks tied to climate and social instability, ultimately ensuring resilient ethical growth in alignment with Islamic values. So this is a very interesting topic that we will be debating this afternoon. And in this session, we will hear from three speakers drawn from academia and industry who will tackle this question from various aspects. And then we'll have the normal panel discussion and an opportunity for question and answer. Our first speaker today is Dr. Salah Al-Hamadi. Dr. Salah Al-Hamadi is the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs and Scientific Research at the Arab Open University. He holds a PhD from the University of Reading, UK, an MBA and bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Texas in the USA. Dr. Hamadi has extensive experience in Islamic economics and finance, having previously served as a lecturer at Al Maktoum College in Dundee. His research has been presented at leading international conferences, and he has published in several high-impact journals. He is also a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts and the Higher Education Academy. Dr. Hamadi's paper today, or his presentation, will be under the title Implementing Sharia-Based and Maqasidi Strategies that Prioritize Social and Environmental Impacts Alongside Financial Returns. Dr. Hamadi.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Hopefully you had a great lunch and not too tired so far. Well, first, let me honor late Sheikh Saleh Kamel for his vision. Sheikh Saleh Kamel, he's a great contributor to the Arab Open University. And he is, his vision believed that education has power to change lives. And it did change life, as an Arab Open University is a non-profit organization that helped a lot of students. Also, I'd like to take this moment to thank Sheikh Yusuf Khalawi and his team for organizing such great events. Today's session that we're going to be talking about implementing the Sharia, Maqasid Sharia strategy, where it contributes to the socioeconomic, environmental, at the same time having a financial return. I believe this is where you change. Green, okay, great, thank you. First, let's look at the first Maqasid Sharia, which is the 5 college or the 5 division of Maqasid Sharia that was implemented by Imam Ghazali. The main 5 that I will go on, which talks about the protection of religion, which is the deen, and why it's important to protect religion, which is, that's where we exist here. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So the preserving of faith and religious practice is very important in the Islamic law, and the Quran emphasizes on the purpose of life, which is to worship Allah. The second one, which is protect of life. Again, this is the college that without these, we wouldn't exist in the universe. So acts like endanger life, like murder or injustice killing. And we've seen lately, I don't want to go into politics, but we've seen lately lots of killing, injustice killing. And these present chaos and strictly are prohibited in Islam. And where the sanctity of life is, key principle. The preservation of the intellect, al-aql, which is, enable, individual to make moral decisions. And that's why the prohibition of the intoxication, so people can make, a wise decision. And then the protection of wealth, which is al-mal. Islamic law mandate that the wealth should be acquired, in halal way. And this will lead to the prohibition of theft, fraud, and the unjust acquisition. The last one in Maqasid al-Sharia, which is the prohibition of lineage or offspring, which is in nasl. And it is important for the future generation to preserve this objective. And it's the law who is, related to marriages, why it's important. The inherit law in Islam is also an important, and how this is, having an important family lineage. But however, these 5 objectives, it's not these are the main objective, but if we look at Shatibi, where he talked, the Indus guy, then he talked about the daruriyat wal hajiyat and the tahsiniyat. And then later on, Ibn Ashur even explained the importance, because these Al-Ghazali looked at it from the personal perspective, but when we look at it from the society, the community ways, there is more into that. And Ibn Ashur talked about the importance of the socio-economic or socio-environmental issue on that. So, well, then what is the Maqasid strategy refer to, which is implementation, as I said, which is a broad objective of Sharia. By implementing this broad justice of Sharia, we can, design as a prioritizing the ethical principles such as social justice, environmental, and ensuring that the financial sustainability. How Maqasid Sharia or Maqasid strategy prioritize socio-environmental impact with the financial return? By aligning these objectives, we can ensure that the economic activity, of course, Professor Mahmoud earlier talked about the intended and what is the substance behind it, and that's the issue. I mean, think of that. We may talk on and on, but if we always gonna go back as an entrepreneur, as an Islamic finance being, had shareholders, always will be an issue. So aligning the Sharia with this will, of course, will emphasize that we create a trust, where we create commitment. For example, when Islamic finance or any institution that does not deal with riba. And of course, riba, by the way, it's not prohibited only Islam. As you know, that it's prohibited in all religion, usually. Even in Christianity and Jews, all that was being prohibited. Of course, at some point where the church allowed a small usury because of, commercial things, and now it's normal to see that. The impact of sustainability, prioritizing investment, and which generate the long-term society, an environmental benefit alongside with the financial returns, social justice, of course, guaranteeing their treatment, socio-economic equity on that, where ensuring the benefit of shared broadly. Economic prosperity as well. For example, what we see in green sukuk has been, different places where UAE has initiated back in 2015 the green sukuk, and it's been used for a long-term project, renewable energy and all clean energy as well. And it has its benefit on the environment and the ethical environment integrity. Cooperation and care, encouraging business to collaborate and care stakeholder, contribute positively to the social well-being and environmental perspective. Well then, by leveraging the Maqasid strategy with the sustainable financial return and socio-environment impact, these could be Islamic impact investment, initiate aim to generate sustainable financial outcome while upholding the ethical and social environmental value by impacting investment, by investment in project and addressing social justice, or it could help to alleviate the poverty in lots of nations. And this could go along. I mean, the Islamic, when Bin Ashur was explaining about the society, it goes even beyond the 17 goals of the SDGs. And the environmental sustainability, these strategies ensure the long-term profitability, and I believe I have less than 50 seconds. So the CSR through zakat and waqf, we've seen different institutions using waqf. For example, Bayt al-Zakat in Kuwait has been using it in education, hospital, scholarship to help the society, halal social business, social compliance with the social enterprise, address social needs, and lastly, the socially responsible investment like sukuk, which is the green sukuk, for example. It's being used, as I said, all over. For example, in Saudi Arabia now, it's being used to fund long-term projects like renewable energy in Scania, a place where 50% of, imagine Saudi Arabia is the largest oil producer, is being using in Scania 50% of that renewable energy from things other than oil. And in the new NEOM project, 100% will be from non-oil product. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hamadi. It's a very interesting topic, and I know that 10 minutes is probably not enough for you to say everything that you wanted to say about this. I mean, just the idea that we're talking about Maqasid al-Sharia in a topic that relates to banking, finance, investment, and so on. It just, remembering how Sheikh al-Ghazali, identified Sharia or Maqasid Sharia as the very objective of Sharia is to promote the well-being of the people. That's very much important to this topic that we're talking about now, because through having new ways of thinking, through open-mindedness, we can implement this in ways that will benefit the people at large. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is Mr. Muhammad Atif Hanif. He's the Chief Executive Officer of AlBaraka Bank in Pakistan. Mr. Hanif is a seasoned banker with 24 years of banking experience in leading banks, out of which 17 years have been with Islamic banks. He comes with a diverse banking experience, including retail and corporate banking, both in Islamic and conventional banks, including the Bank of Khaybar, HBL Islamic, Dubai Islamic Bank, and Bank al-Falah. Mr. Hanif will present on the topic of building an Islamic digital ecosystem, integrating technology for social and economic progress. Mr. Hanif.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to pay my respects to Sheikh Saleh Kamil, who laid the foundation of this very strong and ambitious program of promotion of Islamic banking and finance. I also like to thank Sheikh Yusuf Khalawi for arranging this event and inviting, and this is the best time to hold such an event on such a very important subject. Since I'm a practitioner, so I will speak on how a banker is looking at digitalization and from the Islamic banking and finance perspective. The global asset size of the Islamic finance industry is $4.5 trillion, 70% of which is Islamic banking and finance. But most people talk about it as a very big size and a great progress, which I do not deny. But I like to see it from a different perspective. 25% of the global population is Muslims. Does this $4.5 trillion reflect the 25%? It does not. So it means there's a big gap. There's a big gap, and we really have to progress and find ways of achieving what Islamic banking and finance deserve globally. Secondly, even countries like Europe, UK have 5 to 6% population which are Muslims. And thirdly, and most importantly, although Islamic banking and finance concept, riba-free concept, has been launched by Muslims, but it actually does not conflict with other religions. And in many cases, it aligns with the values of large religions. And as it was mentioned by one of the speakers this morning, in Christianity, even riba was declared forbidden, but then it was restored. Considering the sustainability and the ethical values of Islamic banking, it even gels very well with the modern theme of sustainability and the goals of which are backed by the sustainability of financial sector and also environment. When we look at the fintech side, the entire fintech size of the Islamic institutions is today $79 billion. And it is expected to grow at 17% per annum, which is higher than the 13% growth expected in the overall global fintech industry. But even at a higher growth rate, by 2026, it will only reach $179 billion. So looking at the broader perspective, there's a big gap. We bankers, practical bankers, just always look at the gap, and from that gap comes the opportunity. So what is the opportunity? The opportunity is huge for Islamic banking to grow, Islamic economy to grow, and the digital Islamic and fintechs to grow. What right now Islamic fintech industry, technology, and AI is doing is it is creating efficiencies and in systems and processes of the conventional Islamic banking system. Like in most good banks, 70% of the transactions are now being conducted digitally. But initially, when the concept of digitalization started about 4 or 5 years ago, many thought that this is the end of the brick and mortar banking system. Many were skeptical. Even I come from Pakistan, so I can give you an example of Pakistan, that large banks stopped growing on branch network about 4 or 5 years ago. But now they realized that the true potential of economic financial inclusion still lies in the brick and mortar. So one large bank, which is the second largest bank in Pakistan by network, after a pause of 5 years, they have now opened 260 branches this year. Likewise, almost every bank, including ourselves, we have started growing in branch network. So what fintech and AI and digitalization is doing is basically providing a strong support in efficiencies and process and systems of the existing banking system. I'll give you an example what we did. We are in 13 countries, AlBaraka banking group. So we wanted to create a synergy based on our presence in other countries. So we started a concept of inter-franchise collaboration to enhance the trade, especially considering the Pakistan's economic condition last year. It was named inter-franchise collaboration to enhance the exports of Pakistan. So we started with South Africa. We chose 60 leading exporters from Pakistan in 12 sectors which were trading with South Africa. And our counterpart chose 40 leading importers from South Africa. We developed a portal, uploaded the information about all the traders, and then we held a webinar. And in webinar, we connected them. And then after launching the portal, the B2B connectivity started. It was considered such a great initiative, not only by the exporters and importers of both countries, but also by the government and the central bank. We got a lot of customers which were not banking earlier with us. They were interested because we were providing an unusual access to the buyers in different countries. So it became an absolute success. So this is an example of how digital modes are supporting and helping innovation and creativity in the banking system. We held another one with Egypt. The third one was held between Egypt and Turkey. We are holding Bahrain and Turkey very soon. So this is just one example, internal example of how the digitalization is helping create synergy and efficiencies. I would like to say that where the focus is required in digitalization and technology in order to maximize its benefits, number one, very, very strong role of the Sharia scholars with the technology stakeholders. Because the gaps, obviously, the gaps needs to be identified in the economy, both in the profit economy and the non-profit economy. But then the technology stakeholders needs to get engaged with the Sharia scholars very strongly to find the solution and products for these gaps. And then the strong marketing is very, very important. I think the lack of awareness of Islamic banking and finance is the single biggest challenge for not only the banks and the financial institutions, but also for the consumers. I was speaking to the Secretary General of Azerbaijan Chamber of Commerce, and the lady asked me one question about Islamic banking, and she said, "Can women open account in Islamic banks?" I was stunned. That is this really a question? Because in Pakistan, in order to encourage financial inclusion of women, we incentivize women as products, where we provide free lockers, free checkbooks, free ATMs. It's not really a profitable proposition. We call it Banat account in our case. And it is encouraged to open a women account. Another gentleman who I met yesterday here in London, he asked me, does Islamic banking offer mortgage financing? Now, after having worked 17 years in Islamic banking, I was stunned. This is the level of knowledge and awareness about Islamic banking and finance. Innovation and digitalization is a different subject. Just the basic knowledge and information is lacking. So a very strong marketing is another area through which digital and technology can play a big role these days. There are two major risks that financial institutions take. In conventional side, they take one risk, which is credit risk. But on Islamic financial institutions, in addition to credit risk, we take Sharia risk. If there's in the sequencing is very important. In the sequencing of the process flow of the Sharia compliant products, if there's a small mistake, then the bank has to charity the entire profit of that loan or transaction. So these are a big risk, which conventional banks don't take, we take. So technology and digitalization and AI can really play a big role, and it is actually lacking behind in that area. Frauds and security risk and IT security risk is another area where the AI and technology has to play its due role. Although a lot is being done, but there's a lot that needs to be needed because huge losses financial institutions are taking because of these areas. The chatbots 24/7 can also, which is not the case right now, but going forward, I see a lot of potential of chatbots being used by the financial institutions for Sharia awareness and for Sharia awareness, and robo-advisors is going to be another area of very high focus. Now, this is what the support function is of technology, but where the fintechs can create a niche for themselves is areas like crowdfunding, crowd investment, and crowd charity. If someone has $100 to invest in real estate, they should be able to do it. If someone wants to invest in equity and they have $1,000 for a real estate project or for a big company, they should be able to do it. And likewise, what is very important is crowd charity. If someone wants to sponsor a scholarship for somebody, which is $50,000 a year university, and where they only have $500, so they should be able to do it. So this crowdfunding, investment, and charity is a specialized area which going forward fintechs and IT should be specializing in and progressing. The halal industry is going to be the driver of growth of Islamic banking and economy in years to come. It has $2 trillion of halal meat, $250 billion of halal tourism, $250 billion of halal cosmetics and pharmaceutical, and about $250 billion of halal fashion. Now, the fintechs are going to play a big role, and Islamic banking and finance is going to really drive, because the entire Islamic banking industry globally is now $4.5 billion, and this trade is just beginning, is $3 trillion. So this is going to be going forward a niche of Islamic banking and finance and Islamic fintechs. Financial inclusion, I'll give an example. In Pakistan, 250 million people, 66 million people have accounts in commercial banks altogether, and 111 million people have accounts in fintechs. But the fintech accounts are transactional accounts. They don't keep money. You pay your salary to your servant, they send it to home, the money is withdrawn within hours. So there's no float in the fintechs, but the transactions, they're counting as transactions. But the inclusion is missing. There are at least 110 million people in Pakistan which are excluded from the banking industry overall. So that is an opportunity for the non-bank population of Pakistan is bigger than many countries. So it's a big opportunity for Islamic banks in Pakistan. And one of the reasons, the major bottlenecks for this financial inclusion, the surveys conducted by Central Bank reveals that it's the Sharia sensitivity, it's the riba fear. And from Pakistan's perspective, another big development that is happening is the legislation which has passed recently, and the central bank is spearheading it, is the conversion of the entire Islamic banking industry into Islamic by 2027. Right now, it is 22% Islamic. The 78% non-Islamic industry will be converted into Islamic in less than 5 years, and that amounts to about $160 billion. So without AI, strong fintech support, and digitalization, it will not be possible. So there's a great opportunity, and I'm very optimistic that the Islamic banking industry, economy, and fintechs are going to go a long way in progress of not only Muslims, but also the non-Muslims. I keep saying that we are the first generation of bankers who are laying the foundation of Islamic banking on this planet. as customers, as bankers and stakeholders. So that we are a very privileged generation. Maybe the next generation will not have that much choice because most of the Islamic banking would be converted into Islamic. Most of the conventional banking would be converted into Islamic in countries like Pakistan. So every step that we take, every role we play, every decision we make in this direction should be considered a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanif, for your wonderful insight. It is a very interesting discussion. How can we harness the power of technology and find digital solutions that would support the expansion of Islamic finance and Islamic banks? I mean, one would argue that the technology exists, so it will be easy to adapt it. But we all know that to integrate Islamic values and principles within an existing system will be quite a challenging thing to do. So while we appreciate the need for a new thinking, a new digital developments and so on, I think there's quite a fair bit of work to do before we get to that point. But I'm sure we can touch on that a little bit more during our discussion. Our next speaker is Dr. Widad Mitajar. Widad is a multilingual academic and researcher specializing in finance, Islamic finance, capital market, and Islamic banking. She's currently a lecturer in Islamic finance and business management at Al Maktoum College of Higher Education. She's also an honorary lecturer in Islamic finance at the University of Dundee and an associate lecturer in moral economy and sustainable development at Abertay University. Widad's paper is titled Best Practices in Innovation and Development, Lessons from Global Leaders. Widad.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be presenting today's topic, which is Best Practices in Innovation and Development, Lessons from Global Leaders. Today we are facing some of the greatest challenges in human history. We have global increase in population and urbanization problems, environmental degradation. We have increasingly technological advancements, and all this within globalization context. In these settings and in this context, it became crucial to address sustainable development practices. And it's not an option anymore. It's not something fancy that governments need to think about. It's everyone's responsibility. Governments, businesses, and individuals need to start thinking differently. They need to think about solutions that are value-driven. And those solutions needs to aim at building an ecosystem that sustain socio-economic and environmental well-being. However, to do that, we need a tool, and finance is not something that we can ignore. In this context, Islamic finance is offering the opportunity to fund the gap or to fund the funding gap that is nowadays there. So to achieve this socio-economic and environmental well-being, we need money. And the best ethical way to do it is through Islamic finance tools. So Islamic capital market is offering these opportunities through what we call thematic sukuk or thematic bonds. And let's focus on the Islamic side of things, thematic sukuk. I'm sure that everyone heard by now about this array range of colors, blue, orange, green, and the very diverse greens that are available. So green sukuk are one type of these thematic sukuks that focus on funding or to fund a clean energy infrastructure that will help to achieve this net zero goal that all countries have now, and as stated in the Paris Agreement of 2015. And to achieve this, we need to shift the consumption from fossil fuel dependent energies to cleaner sources of energy. And we have, in this context, since we are talking about thinking differently, and we want to mention how leaders of Muslim countries have started that, and they are showing the rest of the world how we can think differently. However, there is something that's important in this context, is that when you want to think differently in the best way for your regional or your country, you need to take into consideration your own country's characteristics and macroeconomic variables or environments. So you can't take what other people have done and blindly adapt it to your country. You need to consider many elements. So in this case, we have the example of Indonesia and how Indonesia, through their green sukuk the initiative started in 2018, and from 2018 to 2022, how the proceeds of this green sukuk reached $6 billion US. And this revenue or capital is directed where it matters. And when we say where it matters, because Islamic finance or the Islamic commercial law is inherently tying the financing to financing actual real economy. So the screening is there, and the proceeds are contributing to funding this gap. We have many projects that were financed and refinanced using this proceed. We're just mentioning some of them, which are the 690 kilometers railway, improving waste management for more than 5 million households, etc. When we talk about thinking differently and finding solutions for a better economic or sustainable economy, we have tools that we need to use. And finance is a tool, is not an aim, or is not the final destination. It's something that, when you use effectively, can actually contribute or add value to the economy. And technology is another element. So now we cannot ignore technology. Technology is part of our daily life, and it's likely to remain the case in the future in the future. So we better know how to implement technology to achieve this sustainable ecosystem, and because the way we're going to use it now is going to shift or to shape tomorrow or the future generations' world. Technology is highly tied to many of the SDGs, and let's take the Zero Hunger example. By including technology, we can develop solutions that are agri-tech that will help farmers farm sustainably, and by integrating, for example, machine learning into those applications, we can increase the forecasting and predictability for farmers, so they know to some extent, because there is no 100% probability, so they know to some extent what could be the outcome if such variables are changing, and so on and so forth. So technology is also part of how cities of the future would be built. People are at the heart of the city, and we have people-smart, sustainable cities, and not only smart cities, because if people are not at the center of interest of building a sustainable city, it doesn't matter. So for whom you are building those cities? Cities are not just economic hubs. They are cultural hubs, diversity hubs, economic hubs. So the way they are built and the way in technology should be implemented in building those cities is in the way that it's allowing them to grow, because that's the problem. The problem is that the way that governments and businesses were thinking previously in the past decades is to solve the problem that is happening now. But what about the future? For example, let's take example of a highway. If a highway, we have an increasing population and more people are using cars, let's double the highway and make it bigger or larger. That will push people to even use more cars. What about thinking about the car itself? Do you need to use your car? So if you are living within an environment where you don't have to use your car for absolutely everything, this is the way that people and government and businesses all together, because they are all stakeholders in this integrating technology for people, smart, sustainable cities, they should think about or they should think about the problem in a different way and look beyond what is happening today. We have also this is a quick landscape about what's happening in the technology sector in Indonesia. We have this initiative that was launched by Indonesia as well, that is 100 Smart Cities, that is about upgrading the 100 cities to be smarter. So when we talk about smart cities, we have planned cities and we have cities that are existing, but we want to make them more sustainable by implementing technological solutions. This is about all the elements that are included into this governmental initiative. Another leader in being innovative and using technology is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, with its 2030 vision, came with a plan to diversify the kingdom's economy. So let's have a little bit, like a quick landscape, because I don't have much time, by a quick glance to why Saudi Arabia actually launched this 2030 vision. Historically, Saudi Arabia depends on its oil revenue, and it's heavily also subsidizing fossil fuel sector or energy sector, which when we say subsidizing, we mean that the government is using its expenditure to sustain this sector. And it's in economy, when you subsidize a sector, it means that the prices are artificial, they are not true. So the prices that the citizens were paying for were not matching the international prices. And due to the nature of oil prices and high volatility around this sector or these products, when a crisis happens, it means that the government will suffer and it will suffer deficits. So the vision of 2030 was or is an initiative in order to take where you are putting money, injecting it, where it is harming more than sustaining, because the idea behind subsidizing energy sector is to offer some social stability to the citizen, but it is harming more than doing the good. So it's better to direct it where it could help. And we can see from the graph that the amount of subsidy to fossil fuel, it is declining since the launch of the vision in 2016, because 50% of this expenditure was redirected to fund renewable energies. Another mega project that is coming as a fruit of this vision, 2030 vision, is the launch of Neom City, Neom Smart City. So this is a fully planned city. That's the difference with the previous example. It's not upgrading existing cities to be smarter in the way they are dealing or making people's life better. It is a totally planned city that has that actually this project, it is still ongoing project, and it's a very expensive one, but it is related to what the previous panel said about experimental economics. This is an experiment, because this city will be an experimental hub to test tech-related solution and to enhance renewable energy use, because the objective of this city or this mega project is to use 100% renewable energy. It is very ambitious project. It is still it is still ongoing. However, this is what the leaders in Muslim countries have been doing, and the initiatives that reflect how to go beyond profits. I'm running out of time, this conclusion. So the road ahead is one of opportunity. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thanks very much, Vidad. That's very interesting, and thanks for sharing some of these lessons from global leaders. Indeed, it's fascinating to see how quickly we adapt. Again, the use of innovation and development can have major impact on the way we think and the way we live our lives. I mean, to talk about building in new sustainable cities from nothing, that's major development, not economically, but socially and culturally as well. So thank you. Now we will open our debate, and I would like to, we had 3 different perspectives from our speakers, and it's very much appreciated. But what I would like to do is bring the debate back to the title of this session, which is embedding responsibility in Islamic banks and investment solutions for long-term sustainability. I mean, the aim here is to ensure that Islamic banks and investment solutions are also address or also care about the sustainability or the social impact of their implementation. So I'll turn to Mr. Hanif first, if I may. Banks exist to make profit. And in order to do so, you know, sometimes you have to do things that can be a little bit ruthless, I suppose, if I can put it in these terms, and perhaps discussions about sustainability and caring about environment and so on may not be the main priority. So my question to you is, can Islamic banks prioritize long-term social and environmental responsibility without compromising their financial returns? Microphone there.
I think Islamic banks, by going very proactively for sustainability and socio-economic security of the community at large, not only serves a welfare purpose, but it helps improve their brand. And in the larger scheme of things, it actually helps their business. For example, all banks consider succession risk a serious risk while extending their loans and building their portfolios, and try to mitigate that risk through, you know, the management quality of the companies and the succession of the family and so on. In our case, we are now known as a brand in Pakistan, which actually have invited international scholars to lecture the top corporates of Pakistan on family business sustainability over generations. And I'm very honored to mention the name of the scholar. It is Sheikh Yusuf Khalawi himself. So on my request, he came to Pakistan and gave a lecture to the top corporates in Karachi. So it was something which, in fact, it was for the sustainability, but in fact, it helped our brand as a very cautious brand, a very responsible brand. And now the other banks are following our footsteps and finding opportunities to create similar things. We, like some banks in Pakistan, have decided not to finance certain projects which are harmful for the economy, for the environment. And obviously, it restricts our economic opportunity, but then it helps improve our brand. And I think with the kind of consciousness of sustainability and environment and climate change that exists today in the economy and society, the more responsible you are, the more people will like to bank with you, actually.
Thank you. That's very interesting to hear. I thought it would be completely the other view, that customers will be more caring about their financial returns, and therefore that's what they would expect their bank to do. But you gave completely different perspective here, which is really, from a lay person's perspective, it's very interesting to hear.
Yes, but I like to say that it's not at the cost of their financial interest. We, as a bank, will always have to remain very competitive as far as our returns and the interest of the customer is concerned. I should not be using the word interest to confuse the people. The stake of the customer is concerned. But these are the additional things that you can do to help the brand and the customer engagement, more engagement. And I can give so many examples of all the other things that we have done. For example, sponsored a very high-level study tour of students from 6 different universities of Karachi to visit universities in Karakoram, Himalayas, where they did a study of the community. They studied the families where elders are living above 100 years age, because there's a very high life expectancy in that area. The climbers who go to places like K2, there are porter families who go with them. So they interviewed the porter families at how they feel when their father or their brother is going to K2 for 3 months, and there's a chance they may not come. So, and now in winter, the students from the mountain universities are going to come to Karachi and study the coastal culture. So, and this is actually helping, because the youth is more excited about your brand then.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Dr. Salah, if I may. You talked about Maqasid Sharia and the implementation of Sharia-based strategies to prioritize social environmental impact. I would like to explore to what degree or should environmental and social governance criteria should they be a regulatory requirement for Islamic financial institutions, given that they have ethical implications within Sharia?
Oh, definitely. I like, the diplomatic answer by practitioners about the Islamic banking. Of course, if we go a little bit back, Islamic banking it's not charity. They have shareholders, and it needs to be continuous. If we talk about sustainability, how can we have a sustainable Islamic finance without making profit? Of course, when it came in the beginning, if we look at when they, back in 1969, when the Minister of Finance met in Morocco, and then the idea to have the IDP, then the issue with creating Islamic Bank was, shall we make it Sharia-based or Sharia-compliant? And the idea went with the Sharia-compliant. And you cannot have a Sharia-based because a lot of regulators or a lot of countries does not have the suitable regulation to adapt the Islamic finance. So having regulation, of course, Islamic finance, if you want to debate about having it as an ethical finance, is ethical based on what kind of ethics? I can be from a different religion and say I am ethical practicing. Therefore, Islamic finance will always continue to be regulated, of course. It has its own unique stamp because it's based not just on ethics, it was based on religious, based on Sharia. And then when we adapt the Sharia principle or the 5 main Sharia strategy or objective, this will always kind of forward into sustainability, because Sharia, when was taken from or objective was taken from the Al-Ghazali, was was based on a totally different society. If we look at market, his market is the same as when Al-Ghazali was looking at the Sharia objective. It's not, totally different. Now globalization with a different element involved in the transactions. And you have to deal somehow with conventional side. Either you like it or not, but that's how it is. So regulating Islamic banking according to certain regulation, and of course, yes, it's always Sharia compliant, but it always has to have an alternative, because tools sometime, I can say green sukuk, I can call it blue sukuk. Now they came with, as Dr. Wadad was talking about, different colors. Well, was that giving me any purpose to achieve what I'm looking for? So therefore, Islamic finance, even though it has to be regulated and according to the Sharia compliant, it has to, we have to look at it from the different perspective. We want sustainability. We want to use it. If we can deregulate it, but with the regulation of Sharia, then we will have Islamic finance everywhere. So we can't just say that, oh, you're dealing with riba and we have to close everything down.
Okay, so from that perspective then, would you say that Islamic banks are better equipped than conventional banks to promote sustainable finance given their ethical foundations?
Those very good questions. Of course, Islamic banking, I can't say it's better, but I could say it's more of what we want. If I am really in a place where I'm looking for a Sharia compliant, what other choices would I have? Either I go with conventional or Islamic finance. So we have to either build the tools around it and then have the Sharia objective around it and then go with what I have, or either then go with a conventional side. Conventional side has a lot of alternative. It's a huge market. You can deal with anything. It's allowed. There is no restrictions. There's no things that you have to always go back to. And like for example, in Islamic banking, you have the Sharia board that you are allowing this product to be in and out. So to be honest, comparing Islamic banking with a conventional bank, it's too difficult. Because a lot of papers there, they said that the performance of Islamic banking is better during COVID-19, during 2008, because they don't deal with the with interest and all that stuff. But it is difficult because both are running. Yes, I mean, like for example, if you are trying to buy a car in an Islamic bank, unconventional, the end result is the same, but the transaction is totally different and the risk is totally different. It's too difficult just to say that conventional bank or it's easier than they have, or our Islamic bank has more, I should say, more obstacles to reach his result.
Okay, thank you. I would have liked to push this a little bit further, but I see that we're out of time, so if you just give us a couple of more minutes, please. I'll turn to Widad. Widad, would you say that the structure of Islamic finance aligns with the global sustainability goals? And how can it actively contribute to the UN social development goals or sustainability development goals?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I see that Islamic finance products or Islamic finance in general, because of the way or how Islamic commercial law ties the financing to actually funding real economy and adding value, it aligns with the SDGs. It aligns with the 7th goal or the SDGs goals. Why that? Because when we compare Islamic finance to conventional finance, and especially in Islamic capital markets, because that's what was in the presentation, when we compare Islamic capital markets and conventional capital markets, transactions in conventional capital markets are higher. The volume, the depth of the market is much more compared to Islamic capital markets. Why? Because the number of transactions is usually double or triple the actual transaction that happened. There is no delivery of assets in capital markets, in conventional one. There is no real added value to the economy, and that's the difference with Islamic capital markets, instruments that are funding real economic activity, and transparency is a crucial part in the way these products are designed and what they are funding and how this is done. Everything is clear since the beginning. So yeah, I would say they are adding to the real economy.
Thank you very much. I see that we are out of time, but perhaps we can still have time for questions from the audience? 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes for questions. If anyone has a question for the panel. There's one over there.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a question for the Islamic banks. You've mentioned that you have some initiatives in place for environmental sustainability. How do you measure the impact of those initiatives?
Well, we have an ESG expert in our bank who actually does the carbon impact of all the initiatives, and not only the financial initiatives that we are taking and the business initiative, but also the other special initiatives that we do. So it's a science. So I will not like to summarize it in a general way, but it's done very scientifically. And after this year end, we are going to publish our first sustainability report, which will have all the details. We actually started another initiative that is planting 1 tree per staff in every season, which is monsoon season and spring season. And it is done in a very organized way throughout the country. And the trees are even selected which are environmental friendly, indigenous, and so there's a lot of excitement. And the staff goes with their families to various locations and they plant trees. So there's a lot of work that we're doing in that direction.
Thank you. One more question? There's too many hands up, so okay. Well, maybe you can have two.
Thank you. Dr. Jassim Al-Okla, I'm Associate Professor in Finance at Anglo Ruskin. A question to Dr. Al-Hammadi, if I may, and probably Mr. Hanif can comment. As we all know that Islamic financial institutions been existed because they have different, because they have Maqasidi Sharia. The concept behind their existence is they have to comply with and they have to achieve Maqasid Sharia. I think the main issue now, probably Mr. Hanif can comment on this more, that directors or the management in the Islamic banks, they try to compete with their conventional peers. So they have to follow same approaches, or they have to do different operation which doesn't comply with the Islamic Sharia law. And I believe this is the issue, because Islamic banking existed to comply and achieve the Maqasid al-Sharia. So you are out of the competition market. So why you always compete with conventional peers? We have to achieve this, we are better than this in financial performance, and so you have different objectives, you have different goals. So since you are out of the competition, this is what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the key goals that we have is to provide services and products to the customers who are very riba sensitive. So if we do not have the solutions to the requirements, the financial requirements of the common individuals, what their expectations are if they want to finance a house, a car, or maybe want to have a card. And if we simply want to become a social welfare organization, I think, like my colleague said, this is one of the main objectives of Islamic banks is to provide necessary, important, essential Islamic banking and product and services without compromising on its commercial aspect. Because after all, we are not a waqf, there's a difference between waqf and a commercial and a profitable institution, which is supposed to work in line with the Sharia. So yes, I do agree that there are certain products in which Islamic banks are lacking behind, which is the true spirit of Islamic banking, and that is basically the profit and loss sharing. In true sense, we should be doing musharaka and mudaraba with most of the borrowing customers, commercial, the business and the industry and the traders. But that requires transparency of the financial statements. If the customer is making money, and for banks they disclose, and for the government they disclose that they are not making enough money. This may not be the case in Europe, but this is the case in most of the developing countries. So you cannot participate in profit and loss sharing and end up occurring losses, because this is not, after all, your money, it's people's money. So people who have deposited money with us, they expect to get the profit either equal or better than what the conventional banks are giving. So if we start offering profit on deposits less than the conventional banks, and then start lending in areas where there are losses or there are lesser income, the banks are not going to be sustainable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanif, and thanks for the question. I hope that answered your question. Unfortunately, okay, sure, please, we'll make an exception.
My name is Adam, and I'm with my dad. And I wanted to know what would Islamic finance would do for little people like me, and what it would do in the future for me.
Thank you. That's a very, very interesting question, and thank you for asking it, because I don't think anyone else would have asked it if you didn't. Me personally, I don't have an answer, but I'll be very, very interested in the experts here who can give us an answer to that. Who wants to take this question?
Well, I think you can also answer, but I will just say that we have a special product for kids below 18. You can open an account. It has the highest savings rate. And over the period, it builds up to very good profit, and your principal is not only kept with us, it is multiplied over the years. And we also have scholarship programs where your parents can save money in annuity form. When you grow up and you are ready to go to university, they will have a complete plan. By then, they will have enough money out of their savings account, which is specially designed for this purpose, so that you can have good education when you go to university.
Okay. With that, also, maybe from the sustainability goals, is there anything relating to young people when it comes to?
Well, we do a lot of charity. I didn't want to say that, but Islamic banks have a lot of fund which is accumulated due to certain Sharia requirements, which we are not supposed to take in our profit. In our case, 80% of that fund goes in a scholarship. So that is for where the people require funding to pay for their education. For those students, we have, and there were some other bankers around this morning, it's a huge amount being spent on the education I will say in Pakistan, but in all the other countries that I know also, where Islamic banks exist.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, one thing, Adam, I know you have traveled from Bristol. I know that in Kuwait, for example, the Islamic banks, they have programs for children diseases, and they have charity. They do marathons and all that to support children disease, as well as having not just a scholarship, a normal scholarship, but they have a kind of funds to build a hospital for children. So that's things that are from Islamic banks.
Well, thank you very much, Adam, for asking the question, and I sincerely hope that by the time you grow up, you will find that there are many, many opportunities open for you and your generation from the things that we talk about now, about Islamic finance, about sustainability, about social development, and so on. So I sincerely hope that the future will be bright for you and for your generation. Thank you all.